On the corner of A Street and Madary Avenue rests the Coughlin Campanile. Bells that ring loud and proud can be heard all across the SDSU campus. The music comes from a tall, slim tower made of brick and stone. On top is a light so bright it can be seen from miles away at night. The Coughlin Campanile is the face of SDSU. Its logos is on student IDs, envelopes, the school website, even tuition bills.
A campanile or campanile, whichever you want to call it.
Cecil graduated from SDSU in 1959. He says both pronunciations are correct, but is a generational thing. Cecil is also the author of the book The Sky's the Limit. It's about Charles Coughlin, who paid for the complete cost of the campanile back in 1929. Coughlin grew up in Carthage and graduated from SDSU in 1909 and made his fortune as the president of the Briggs & Stratton Company. The cost was first estimated at $18,000.
And the price kept going up and up and up. And they kept calling Charles Coughlin back, and he was always agreeable to the new plan.
The final price tag was $75,000.
When they called Charles Coughlin with the last estimate, he said that, well, let's go with it. The sky's the limit, and that's the name of my book. That's why I named it The Sky's the Limit. But he would later joke that he was glad that he didn't know the Depression was coming, so he was glad that was the last request, was a $75,000 request.
Work on the 165-foot-tall campanile began on May 7, 1929. It took about 3 months to build.
They started, it was about a 30-foot of Bedford limestone, and then they went to brick. And they have about 100 feet of brick, and then you run into about 30 more feet of really decorative limestone up at the top.
Cecil says brick was stacked at a rate of 2 to 3 feet a day. A stiff-legged derrick was used instead of scaffolding, with masons working from the inside of the structure.
After they finished with the stonework in the campanile, then they had to install the carillons, which are about a dozen long, some of them 10, 15 feet long, brass pipes that have been tuned. Well, they were tuned after they put them in, and connected that all up with a control room on the ground floor of the campanile.
Workers installed a keyboard inside a control room where the carillons were played. Rolls of punch paper could also be inserted through a machine to make music play.
But the one I remember is that always, if it was going to rain, you would hear raindrops keep falling on my head. I think that was the name of the song. And then hymns they had, and just about any kind. And then, of course, it called students to class and rang at the end of the class period. In the early days, then not everyone had a wristwatch. A few people had watches, so they'd know what time it is to head out to class.
The carillons would also chime out the score of the football games. When first installed, the carillons were so loud they could be heard from 20 miles away. The campanile was built to beautify the campus. It is also a part of SDSU traditions. One is the campanile climb. During the first week of classes, a contest is held to see who can climb up the 180 steps the fastest. The best recorded time is 32 seconds, made in 1994 by former SDSU basketball player Troy Bauman. The campanile is also the place for romance and marriage proposals. For V.J. Smith, it gets a little more intimate than that.
I normally don't tell anybody this, but my wife and I got married up in the campanile because it was her idea, and being around here for all those years, thinking that would be kind of a neat place, and so got a hold of an old high school classmate who happens to be a minister, and he had a congregation in Parkston at the time. He came up on the Saturday of Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving, and my wife and I got married, and that was that.
The campanile became a part of the National Register of Historic Places in 1987. Over the years, steps have been made to preserve the campanile. A loudspeaker system now plays music instead of the carillons. The carillons are now housed at the South Dakota Agricultural Heritage Museum. In 2001, a full restoration was completed on the structure. While SDSU's campus is changing and growing with several new buildings, Chuck Cecil reflects on the old buildings that remain.
You know, most of the buildings that were here when I was a student are gone, but the campanile is still here. So I have some part of that is still around.
Even though it's a very old building, a very old figure and memorial on campus, it's still a part of the campus and everyone should get to know all the facts about it.